The African Ambassadors Economic Forum in Washington, D.C. is right around the corner. This Africa Economic event is more than just a high-level gathering. It's a strategic platform for shaping Africa's role in the global wealth shift. With influential leaders from across the continent and diaspora, the forum will spotlight opportunities for collaboration, investment, and long-term economic transformation.
Well, joining us to discuss the essence of this event is Joseph Okechukwu, a documentation and not forgetting to an author. Good to have you here, Joseph. Thank you for being here this morning.
Now, so let's get straight to it. The Ambassadors Economic Forum, I mean, you're organizing, yes, the African Ambassadors Economic Forum in Washington, D.C. on the 18th of July. Could you tell us what this is all about?
Okay, so as the theme implies, it says unifying African leaders to advance U.S.-Africa relations under the 2063 African Union agenda. So it's basically, you know, when some people watching now may probably be hearing about the Agenda 2063 for the first time, but Agenda 2063 is basically like bringing back to life everything that Africans have been crying for all along. Africans want a continental free trade area. They want a situation where we have a single currency that is backed with gold. They want to be able to freely interact with their fellow Africans. They want freedom from colonialism. They want imperialism to die a natural death on the continent of Africa. There are too many limitations we have as Africans. And the dream of every African, especially in this generation, is to see all those bottlenecks, all those bureaucratic bottlenecks that are actually imposed on us, you know, by higher powers, to be completely removed, all those red tapes to be taken out of the way so that Africans can live and thrive on their own land without having to go to embassies and queue upon lines trying to get visas to travel abroad. In Nigeria, they call it jackpot. We don't need to be jackbarring all up and down the whole place just because we want to go to a place where we can get greener pastures. Africa is where the green pasture is. And so this is a situation where we want to bring all the big, talking heads together, all the big African brands and beyond into one room and get them to brainstorm on how we can make what we are planning for 2063 happen in 2025 and beyond. That's basically what this is all about. And as we go on, I mean, I'm going to just read you some of the agenda of what the Agenda 2063 is all about. I have them written down here, and I think that people need to know that as well.
All right, let's shoot then. Let's go ahead and let us know what the agenda is all about.
Okay, so the agenda includes 15 flagship projects. This was set up in 2015. And by 2015, they were already projecting that certain things would have happened by 2020. And I'm going to read you this. Number one, it said, we want a high-speed train network connecting all African capitals and commercial centers. Number two, the formulation of a strategy for transforming the African economy from a supplier of raw materials to one that actively uses its own resources. Because you know what we do in Africa is we basically do raw material supply into Europe. We just grow raw materials and we supply them, okay? Both whether it is agricultural product or our natural resources, all we do is send it over there, they process it, and they can even sell back to us, whether it be oil, whether it be gold, whether it be whatever, which is why a lot of Africans are rejoicing over what has happened in the Sahel region today. Number three, it says the establishment of the African Continental Free Trade Area, which I just talked about, the introduction of the African Union passport, and removal of all visa requirements for its holders within Africa. Tell me, why would Africans be traveling to African countries and they will still be having to go look for visas? The same way you look for visas to go to Europe. In Europe, it doesn't happen that way. With your ID card, you can move from one place to another. But in Africa, we still have to go get visas to travel to some African countries. In fact, it's even more difficult to get visas to some African countries than it is to get visas to some countries in the West. It is also more difficult to even get to Western countries by phone or maybe by traveling, it's cheaper than going to some African countries. A lot of nonsensical bottlenecks that just don't make any sense. So number five, he says, ending all wars, civil conflicts, gender-based violence, and violent conflicts by 2020. Has that happened in 2020? No. Has it happened in 2025? No. So we need very radical roadmap on how to make these things happen, not just talk. Because, Africans are known for doing a lot of talking. We want to go from talking to acting. Action is what is needed right now. And that's what this whole program is all about. That we are fed up with talking. We want to go straight to the next stage, which is acting. Okay? Now, the next one says the construction of a third Inga Dam. The establishment of the single African air transport market. Okay? The establishment of an annual African Economic Forum. The establishment of a set of financial institutions envisaged as an African investment bank, a Pan-Africanist stock exchange, an African monetary fund, and an African central bank. Now what we have is International Monetary Fund, World Bank, and I'm not a fan of any one of those organizations because those organizations, truth be told, are the reason African countries are indebted. We are called debtor continent or debtor nations in Africa because of these organizations, IMF and the rest of them. If we have our own that has its own autonomy and independence, and we are able to oil our own economy indigenously, domestically in Africa, we will not have to take any loan from any IMF or World Bank. These are not just talking points. These are things that are actionable, and we need to get to the point of taking action on them. Okay, so the next one, number 10, is a Pan-African digital data network, very important. A development of a common African strategy for the use of outer space technology. We don't have any representation, serious representation. The establishment of an African open digital distance learning university. Cooperation on cybersecurity. The foundation of a great African museum, preserving African cultural heritage and promoting Pan-Africanism. And the 15th one is the compilation of an Encyclopedia Africana as an authoritative resource on the authentic history of Africa and African life. If we have that, nobody from the mainstream media is going to come out to tell us the story of Africa. We are not telling our stories as it is right now. Other people are telling our story for us. Other people are describing us and defining us. We don't have the voice. What is the network you can point to today and say this is the main African network that actually takes care of all the issues about Africa, that where Africans have the opportunity to go and express themselves? It is not CNN. It is not BBC. It can never be Al Jazeera. None of them. We don't have a single network. And one of the pointers to a powerful country or continent that you can find anywhere in the world, I will give you some of them. One of them is having nuclear power. Okay? If you have a nuclear power, you are regarded as a superpower in the world. If you have your own network, your own media outlet, your own news network, you are regarded as a superpower. If you look at Britain, they have BBC. If you look at America, they have CNN. If you look at the Gulf states, they have got Al Jazeera. If you look at Turkey, Turkey has got its own. Now look at Russia. Russia has RT. And when the Russia and Ukraine war started, the only reason people got to have the other side of the story was because RT was able to get themselves to speak through Rumble and their own website. Because the moment this war started, you notice that Europeans who are on the side of Ukraine decided to cut off Russia today from all their major satellites. And so they were even cut off from YouTube. But because they have a website, and they were also given a place in Rumble, which is a rival to YouTube, they were able to get some words out. So people can now have a balanced reporting on what is happening in Russia, between Russia and Ukraine. Other than that, everybody will be confined to just having only one side of the story, which is basically what the mainstream media does. They give you only one side of the story, and they don't want you to see the other side. And before you know what is going on, people will start believing that one side of the story. And this is the problem we have in Africa. Where is our media? Where is our voice in the media? Where is that network we can point to and say, this is where we actually go to defend Africa? None of them. It is what they shove down our throat that we are going. So this meeting in Washington, D.C. is basically about bring all these African think tanks, let us come together and brainstorm, not just brainstorm as usual and stay under the AC and talk, and after talking, everybody will leave, but brainstorm and come up with actionable plans, practical things that we can actually start doing immediately. Let us identify the low-hanging fruit and then start dealing with it from there. What we see happening in Burkina Faso, in Mali, and Niger Republic are things that almost every African has been crying out for. Now, it didn't have to happen that way. It is because Africans are doing too much talking and dilly-dallying and foot dragging up and down. That's why the issue, the thing that is happening in Burkina Faso is happening today. Okay, they couldn't wait anymore. And so we had it that way. But what you see happening in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger can actually happen politically. If our people can decide, you know what, enough is enough, we don't have to wait for a military coup to happen before we can actually embrace the change that will be for the good of Africa, then we can actually make it happen. But if we don't, we are going to end up having this same situation that happened in the Sahel, repeated in different other African nations. Because nobody in Africa today is comfortable with the way the political structure in Africa is structured.
Okay.
Build against, and we want that to come to an end. So that's what this meeting is all about in a nutshell. If that was enough.
I like the fact that you've summarized every single thing.
That was in a nutshell.
I mean, that was enough. And I'm sure everyone who's watching would want to get a real taste by being part of this event. As we wrap up this conversation, I mean, we did have network challenges. Would have loved to spend more time to discuss. But can you share with us the venue, the time once again, so that the Africans in the diaspora can catch it and can start to mark their calendars?
Okay, so this is going to be happening at the Africa House, Washington, D.C., and it's actually July 18 to 20. Okay, Africa House, Washington, D.C., July 18 to 20. So it's Global Initiative for the Advancement of Africa, Global Initiative for the Advancement of Africa, GIAA. So once you go there, go to the website actually, and then you can see some information, or just look it up. You know, it's all over the place. So we're expecting to see a lot of people. You can go to the website, is www.aaeforum.org, www.aaeforum.org. Once you get on that website, you can get all the information you need. There are some people who are on standby to take phone calls and all kinds of stuff, and give you directions and give you more information on that you need to be able to participate. And I'm going to be there as well. Of course, there are so many other people coming. I'm going to be there. We're going to have some chats, and then we're going to have fun actually trying to change Africa.
All right.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much
for speaking with us.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. We look forward to see the highlights. For those of us who are stuck here, we can't fly down. You know, we have to be at work and so on. But we'd love to talk to you again very soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, fellas.
All right.